Hi, my name is Doug Rutter. I'm the president of RCS Sports Incorporated, the owner of the Collective and the E-Museum. And then we're going to, from there, then I'm going to have like a 15 or 20 minute podcast conversation with you. And then if you're agreeable to it, Guitar Slim wants to join us for 20 minutes and talk to you about, I guess you guys have quite a back, you've done a lot of stuff in the past. You kind of came up the same way.
Guitar Slim.
Pat Chase.
Uh-huh.
His name is Pat Chase.
Okay. I'm not positive who you're talking about at the moment.
He's from the Bay Area.
Okay.
And he came up there. One of the stories he told me, the abbreviated version, was something about y'all's van got stolen.
Yeah, I did have vans.
Yeah, he's around that time of your life.
Okay.
So that would be the last part. So let's start with the guitars. Which one do you want to talk about first?
That's up to you, because I can't guarantee you that I'm going to remember too much about any of them, but I probably will. Okay, I know the Telly.
The first guitar. Yeah, let's talk about the Telly. I guess tell me the background of that guitar. I know the end date for that guitar, but tell me about the Telly.
Well, I don't remember too much about it, but I think I'm pretty sure it was a made in Mexico reissue of a 50s Telly. Yeah. And I ended up playing that with Dylan when I was with Dylan, and it kind of was my favorite guitar for that.
Yeah. Did you see the photograph I sent you as well?
I did, yes.
Yeah, that's you playing it with Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've asked you this in the past, and it's been kind of off the table about what happened with all that mess with Dylan.
Well, I worked with him for one tour, which I think was a couple months, and everything was great. He was loving everything that I was playing. At least he told me it was. And then we took a break of a few weeks, came back, and all of a sudden what I was playing previously, I was still playing in a very similar way. And he decided that he really didn't care for it, and he became a bit kind of rude. And, I just decided that, I couldn't really deal with that.
Yeah.
He liked before, he didn't like, and now, and he wasn't giving me any direction as to what he wanted me to do differently. I was just supposed to, I guess, be a mind reader, so it just got to be a bit much. And
is it difficult to be on tour with him?
What's that?
Is it difficult to be on tour with him?
Well, the first section of the tour was very great every night. In fact, it was so good I couldn't even believe it, because he does have a reputation of being fairly difficult sometimes. But then I found out all about when we started up again, and I think I only lasted 4 shows before I left.
Yeah,
it just was too much,
Yeah,
I wasn't a young kid looking to make it. I was a 65-year-old guy at that time, and I just wasn't going to stand around being insulted.
Does he mingle with the band, or is he off on his own?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard that there's an occasion where that may happen, but in the time I was with him, it didn't really happen.
Yeah, he doesn't do sound checks and all that, or he does?
Oh, we do sound checks.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's it's not like we're really like hanging out and being with the guys,
Yeah, he's not one of the guys, is he?
Not exactly. But, he's Bob Dylan.
There you go. You were on the Love and Theft album, weren't you?
Uh,
I think you played some
no,
tracks.
I'm on Time Out of Mind is the
Time
one.
Out of Mind. What a great record it was.
That is really a great record. I was so, but one thing I got to say is that that was a great experience being on that record.
Yeah.
It was really great, even though the producer, Daniel Lenoir, didn't want me there, but Bob insisted that I play on it. So,
Have you spoken to Bob since?
no, I haven't. No,
Yeah.
I haven't had the, you know, haven't had the reason to, and I haven't been to one of his shows since then. So,
Yeah. So then let's move on to the Strat.
okay.
You've got a Duke Robillard headpiece on that. That's a very heavy guitar.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember where that body came from. Very often with Fender guitars, I switch parts around or I buy aftermarket necks or pickups, and usually I just put them together the way I feel that they work best.
Yeah.
So if that's a heavy body, I really can't remember exactly what the situation was, but that's probably the reason I sold it, because uh, it played and sounded good, but I've got I lost my rotator cuff on my left shoulder about 6 or 7 years ago, and I can't play guitars that are heavy. It's just
Wow.
impossible.
And then move on to the two Epiphones. They look like very similar guitars.
Yes, it looks like they're both uh, Rivieras, I believe, or the next model up, which I'm not sure what that would be. I think they're both Epiphone Rivieras.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, the picture I sent you of the red one, who are you playing with there?
That's Mike Welch, Monster Mike Welch,
Yeah.
who's a Boston area guitarist who played with Sugar Ray and the Blue Tones for a long time.
Yeah.
And he's a great guitar player, phenomenal.
Yeah. Great. And was the red one and the gold one used for the same purpose?
Yes, yes. It's funny. I get disenchanted with guitars, and I let them go, and then maybe a year later, I might buy another one of the same model. But they're all a little bit different, so I kind of enjoy playing different guitars. That's kind of been my thing for many, many years now.
How many
I
guitars?
just
How many guitars do you keep on stock?
Well, I was up to about 60 at one point.
Wow.
Right now, I only have about 15 or 20. I don't
Really?
really have a count. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I just, I'm getting older. I don't, the desire to keep buying guitars is not as strong as it used to be.
Yeah.
And,
And then how about the uke?
that's a very special instrument. That's, Domino was a company, it's a Domino uke, and they have little decals of dominoes on it in a
Yeah.
couple of places, and they were made by a company in Chicago that made mail order guitars, and I'm trying to think of the name of the company, but I can't think of what it is, but it might have been the company that eventually became Harmony. But they were good instruments, and but cheap instruments, but better than most of the catalog guitars. And
Yeah.
they made guitars and ukuleles and various instruments.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want to talk about, the guitars. So we've kind of gone through those, and I appreciate you for that. Switching gears a little bit, let's do the short version of the Duke biography.
Okay.
Tell me, so when did you start playing?
I started playing around the age of 6, but I wasn't allowed to have a guitar.
How come?
Um, because when I was 6 years old, it was 1954, the first year that rock and roll started to become popular, and my mother heard Little Richard and Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis, and she saw them on TV when they were first starting out, and she said, "You're not doing that. There's no way I'm going to let you do that." She looked at it as evil, like devil's music, and so my sister felt bad for me and bought me a ukulele, which is what I started on, and then my brothers both bought guitars. They weren't really that interested in music, so it was okay for them to have them. But I was obsessed from an early age, so it wasn't good for me to have one. My mother thought.
Well, when was the first time you had a pick in your hand and somebody thought, hey, this kid can play?
Well, I don't know if my mother never thought that I had any talent until she saw me on a Boston morning TV show, like a variety show kind of thing. And when she saw me on TV, then she figured he must be good if he's on TV. It's funny.
So when was your first real gig?
Oh, as a teenager in high school,
Cover band?
yeah, we'd have a little band that play. Started off playing in bands that played instrumentals first. So I do, Dwayne Eddy songs and Link Ray songs and Chuck Berry songs and people like that, The Ventures, and then eventually we realized that we needed somebody to sing, so we got a singer, and then later on, a few years later, I started singing myself. So, um, that was after well, I guess I started singing when I was in high school.
Yeah. Were you strictly blues or did you play it all?
We basically played blues and bluesy music that we got from, because I was just learning about the real blues artists then. So I was also playing stuff by the Rolling Stones and the Animals, because they were just a few years older than us, and they were kind of reintroducing blues songs to the American public, to kids in America. So that's what happened there.
Yeah. So how old were you when you got your first record deal? Or was it a record deal or a touring deal?
Oh, geez. First record I ever made was a 45 with Roomful of Blues, and we paid for that ourselves and distributed it ourselves, or sold it to stores, and they would sell them. And it became pretty popular. So, but it wasn't for. I'd say that was about. Oh, geez. Let's see. Maybe like 72 or 3. And we didn't get a record deal with a label until 1977. We signed with Island Records for our first album, and we did one album for Island and then a second album for their subsidiary, Antilles.
Okay. And have you just been touring and playing your whole life?
Yeah, since since the early 70s.
Why don't you ever come west anymore?
Anymore, the problem is there's not enough work to work our way across the country. And if we go out there, we have to fly out there and then rent vehicles and find equipment to borrow or whatever. It's very complicated now. It used to be we just hop in a van and just drive across the whole country and work all week and maybe have 2 nights off out of the week. But now it's hard to get work anytime other than the weekend.
Yeah.
So the kind of bottom fell out.
But it looks like you stay busy.
I'm constantly working. I'm working now more than I have been in several years, probably 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
I have a pretty full, but it's mostly either New England or we go to Europe, somewhere in Europe, and then the promoters drive us around and provide the backline equipment. So that
Yeah.
makes it much more reasonable to do.
When are you going back out?
Uh, Next July, I'll be doing a European tour. Yeah, next July. It's
Are you
just
bigger? Are you bigger in Europe than you are here? Or?
I used to be much
Yeah.
bigger. I still draw a good crowd, but in the '80s when I went over with my trio um, for several years, we often sold out every show because blues was kind of making a comeback then, So, and I was a new artist in a sense. After I had left Roomful Blues, I started doing my trio albums, and people really liked it. It was very guitar oriented, and so I did very well with that, and you know, and I still play. I've been recently starting to play as a trio again, but I generally work with my six-piece band.
Yeah. Well, Roomful of Blues, how long did that go?
I went, I was with them for 12 years, but it was many years before we even, we started recording in '77 and I left at the end of '79. So I started the band in '67. Right after high school. It's the
Wow.
year after high school I started it.
And then I saw you took Jimmy Vaughn's spot in the Thunderbirds, huh?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Gosh, everybody's played with the Thunderbirds. What's the deal?
I don't know. Yeah. You know, I know they change people a lot. I don't know. A lot of bands that once they lose their original members, it seems like the turnover of musicians becomes greater.
Really?
It seems that
So,
way.
so when you go over to Europe, you're going over as your six-piece band?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, good. Anything between now and then? Holidays?
Oh, I'm working total constantly.
Yeah.
Uh, mostly all around New England. I go to Canada now and then. I produce records for people. That's another thing I do. I teach online guitar lessons.
Did COVID affect you much?
Uh, yes, it completely wiped out my way of making a living for at least 2 years.
Yeah, it sucks.
Uh, it just started coming back. It's towards the middle of the summer last year. I started doing outdoor gigs, but still club gigs. Didn't come back until, this year, really.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I look forward to seeing what's next for you.